Okay, well, it looks like everybody's here, so we're going to get started. This really should not take too long, and I'm going to keep you all muted just for a short while throughout the presentation. If you have a question or something that you want to raise up to me, please send a chat message through your console, and I'll respond to your question. I may even be able to unmute you, and then we can talk about that briefly. You know, by the way, in my opinion, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Please, if you have a concern about something, you're not clear about something, there's a pretty good chance that other people here on this meeting probably have the same concern, or the same question rather. So that would be appreciative if you would, please speak up. Unfortunately, this version, we're using GoToMeeting and not GoToWebinar, and I don't know why I did that, but that's what I did. And on the webinar, it does allow you to, to raise your hand so I can see that you have a question. So today we're going to cover 4 things, and we're going to cover connecting to our cloud server. We're going to cover our tax program, and I know there's a couple of you out there that already know how to use ATX. And that's great, but there's at least 2 or 3 other people here that this is the first time for them. And then I'm going to go over our web portal again. I know some of you have seen it, you've used it because we've exchanged documents back and forth. So that part is just going to be a review. And then we're going to talk about billing and how you get paid. And then I'm going to open it up to questions, and then I'll respond to any questions that you have. And we have about 55 minutes remaining in our time slot today. So, and I will try and not talk for, I'll try to leave at least 20, 25 minutes at the end for questions, okay? So, in a very short period of time, you are going to receive an email. And that email is going to have an attachment on it. And that attachment is going to be this icon file that you see here on my screen. And when you get this email, you're going to drag it from the email over onto your desktop. Okay, and this is how you will access our cloud server and the tax program for 2016. Okay. Now, I'm going to point out to you here that you are going to need some information, log on and password, etc. And I will be sending to you in our web portal. I'm going to send you an email with that information for your username and a password. And it's a little unorthodox, but you're going to figure out pretty soon that I'm a baseball fan. So all of my remote people that work remotely for us have a designation that begins with the word bullpen. All right. So each of you is going to be known to our web server as bullpen and a number. So you'll be given that and a number, and then your username, or pardon me, your password will be your last name followed by the last 4 digits of your Social Security number, and that's what will get you into to our web server. So when you receive this icon and you click the edit, your down here, your username always needs to begin with this JTH and the backslash. It always must begin with that. So if you were, for example, bullpen22, you would make sure that TJH backslash bullpen22 would be in that username. Now, I know you all can see this here. This allowed me to save my credentials, and I'm going to ask you not to check that, okay? And the reason for that is that if your computer were to fall into the hands of some disreputable person or, hacker from Belarus, we don't want to make it easy for anybody to get into our web server and, get access to information which clearly they should not have. So it is going to put some, a bit of burden on you to type this information in every time you want to log on. but it's really just a security issue. So, and you'll see how this, you can put your username in, but you don't want to save, pardon me, save your password on that, okay? So, again, you're going to get an email. It's going to have this, this icon attached to it. You're going to drag the icon from the email over to your desktop, and that will be, then you'll be issued your username and your password through our web portal. And I'm going to show you a little bit about where you can see email in our web portal, okay? So you all happen to be just looking at my laptop right now, and I'm in one of our other offices where I don't have a dedicated workstation. So I just happen to be working on my laptop today. But if I wanted to connect to, to my, pardon me, my account on the web server, I would double click on this. And in fact, I'm going to do that. I'm going to jump in here. And I know I'm working a little bit ahead of you guys, but I'm going to go ahead and disconnect. So when I wanted to get to my account, I would simply double click this icon, and I'm going to be presented with to put in my password credentials. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And again, please don't click Remember Me, because we don't want anything to happen, where something is, falls into the hands of the wrong people. So, and it's going to look like this, and you're for sure going to get this desktop warning thing, and you're always going to say, yes, I want to go ahead and connect. That's really kind of a benign warning. Now this just happens to be, and I know this looks like chaotic here, but this is not the way it looks on my regular desktop. This is the way it looks because of the fact that I'm on a laptop right now. But the only thing that you all are going to see on your desktop is this icon right here that I'm pointing to right now, which is the ATX 2016 software. Now, there is some technical issues, and with regard to prior years, because they run on a different platform. So you're only going to see 2016. Now, don't be afraid, because you're going to have access to a lot more through the web portal. Most of the clients that you are working on, you're going to work on for our financial advisor network around the country. And that portal, you're going to have access to for every return that you're authorized to do. We're going to put you access to that client's account on our web portal. And you're going to be able to see previous year's returns in a PDF format. You're going to be able to see all the supporting documents that the client has provided us in the past. And you're going to be able to clearly see the supporting documents that have been presented, by the client or the advisor's office for us in the current year. So, and getting into the program is really, not that problematic. It's simply clicking on the software, and then you're going to be asked for a username, which I have set your username to be equal to your last name, okay, just your last name. And then I will also provide to you by secure email your password to get into the ATX software. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my my password in, and clicking logging in. Now I get to see, of course, a lot more than what you're going to get to see, but you will actually get to, you'll see all of the returns that we currently have in process in this, in this program. But you're going to be advised by email that you've been assigned a specific project, and we're just going to tell you the last name and first name of the client. And most of what you're going to see is 1040s, but there could be some other stuff too. And some of you out there, I know you have a corporate background and partnerships and other things. You're going to see some of those things. Those of you who are more focused on 1040s, you're probably only going to see 1040s until you can tell me that, I have more knowledge about, other entities other than just a 1040. So now every one of these files is supposed to be password protected, okay? And there's a good reason for that. That's required now. IRS has put that in position on the software developers that, not only do you have to have a username and password to get into the software, but you're supposed to be password protecting each of these, these accounts. So for any account that you are assigned, your password will be equal to the same password, basically the same password that you use to get into the program. More specifically, it'll be your last name and the last 4 digits of your Social Security number. So, and I also want to tell you that I can assure you that this is not personal. As soon as you have submitted your work for final review and everything is fine, we're going to change that password again, so that you're not going to be able to get, anybody is not going to be able to get back into that return. So if something, like I said, if something, your computer were to be hacked or whatever, we're just doing this as, a preventative measure. So not to worry about that. Let me just see if I can demonstrate here. Like I'm going to try and open this return here, and if everybody has done what they're supposed to do, and they did, there is a password that is now required for me to open this return. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the password in, and it's going to open up all of the forms that are currently in this return, okay? And this just happens to be, if this is a returning client, then you're going to see that there is a file already created for them here in the software. If this is a new client, and you're going to know that because we're going to tell you that in advance, you might actually have to click on New and start a return from scratch, like you might for any other client. So this particular client, as you can see, all of the forms and worksheets, etc., are on the left-hand side here. Everything within ATX is what I call form-centric. So, in other words, if you need to enter itemized deductions, then you really need to know that that is Schedule A, and that for every form or other worksheet along the bottom of the screen here, every possible worksheet that could affect any field on this particular form is going to be down here at the bottom of the screen. So if you knew, for example, that you wanted to input real estate taxes, you could click right on real estate taxes. If it's sort of beyond the screen, you can click on this little arrow to move it over, or you can click on this field and say, okay, I just want to go to real estate taxes. So you can see here that there's an entry being made for principal residence, and part of this person's return, we are allocating mortgage interest across 2 properties on Schedule E. So we've made that notation here to reduce that for this schedule, and then we would put it on the other schedule. And that's really pretty much true for any of these forms. Obviously, most of you are going to see, you're always going to see a 1040, in some cases a 1040A, rarely a 1040EC, but sometimes, when these people come in, we have a policy of preparing the children's returns for free, so long as they appear as a dependent on their parents' return. So, kids that do that do summer jobs and stuff like that. I really try to push those off, to other kind of intern type people that are within our organization, because I really don't want to waste your talents on filling out a 1040EZ. I mean, that's, I know it's a slam dunk, but you all have a higher skill set than just doing that. So most of what you're going to see is your Schedule A stuff. And states could include a bunch of different ones. probably the most significant, or the one that's the most difficult, is Ohio, and to some extent California. And I know there's a couple of you here that are from California, so that may be kind of no big deal to you. But anyway, we have a lot of returns that come from Florida and Texas, where there is no state income tax return. So a lot of what you're going to do is going to be slam dunk, just pounding the information in, checking your work, and moving on. And then in other cases, you might end up with returns that have multi-state filing, and they can be, more of a challenge. So until I get comfortable with some of your skill sets, you might feel overwhelmed, and you might need some help on some of these. But we try to direct returns to. We have a grading system, which you'll never see, but the return gets immediately graded when it comes in, and then it gets assigned to somebody that has the requisite skill set that we think can handle this return. And so as we move through the season and into the future with you all, then we can change that too. So if you're able to handle more sophisticated types of returns. When you're moving around in a return, you can always, if you're not exactly sure where something is coming from, just by clicking on the field, and anytime you see this little arrow here, that means you can jump to the field or to the worksheet that it comes from. So in this case, if you were, obviously you would know that you need a W-2 to enter something on line 7, but you can click on that link, and it will take you right to all of the the W-2s. And if you have more than one, you can simply click through the records. You can click on a detailed sheet that would put up every single every single document that was in there. You can look at summary totals. You can look at summary pairs, etc. But by and large, mostly what you're going to do is here. So if you're ever really not clear about, how do I get, the right worksheet or the right supporting schedule to get it to come over to the tax return, that jump field is really important. Okay. Other things that you'll find, as you go through the work, I really hate this. I got to tell you. This has just been added to the software, that anytime there's one of these blue triangles in the corner, it'll pop up and it'll tell you that, oh, you can go see this in tax research. And I'm certainly okay with you all, having access to that, but it does require a registration, which I'm happy to do for you. But for the most part, I don't really know that you're going to need it, because most of you, if you don't have a master tax guide, you should have a master tax guide. It's available from CCH. You can order them online. I don't believe they're terribly expensive, but there is a master tax guide that's available in digital format, through this web application. So everything is form-centric, and you only need to know that if I'm looking for, like this client happens to be, available for the earned income credit, but other things all relate to, this one happens to relate to the ACA. But everything that supports that is right here in a supporting worksheet that is connected to that return, or that document, that form number rather. And other things that you're going to want to be clear about, sometimes you might accidentally override a field, which is kind of easy to do. You can always restore a field, and it will put it back to the way it was before, which is typically with nothing entered. It is possible to link fields from one to another. For example, if there's a number that comes off of one form that you need over on another form, you can link those fields together so that anytime the number changes on the primary form, it also changes on the form that it's linked to. You really are never going to need this interview function, but it's there if you find it in some way helpful. You can jump back and forth between forms in the order in which you clicked on them, and you'll see that if I go back here enough that you can see we're kind of backtracking into time if you find that helpful. Here's the really big, the tool that obviously we rely on the most, which is check return. And when you click this is the first thing I do when I look at a return being prepared by somebody else. And the first thing I'm looking for is no red errors. If there was anything in there that was red, that means that that return is not ready to be submitted, and you have to act on that. And to find out what it is, of course, it does give you a little bit of a description, but you can click on that, and it will take you to whatever form that it has a concern about. And orange is nothing more than a warning, and it does say warning here. But if there was something that was particularly problematic, it would be in red. Okay, and you can't see this, but I have to move that. Anyway, of course, let me talk to you about printing too. Now, when you print, it's going to come up and it's going to have essentially 4 options for printing: a filing copy, a client copy, a preparer copy, and a custom. Now, most of you are only going to be printing things from here because you just want to have it in paper, you're trying to reconcile something, you're trying to compare something. And I just want you to know that these all default to on, so in order to turn some of them off, you just simply need to unclick that field. And you'll be presented with a number of printer choices. And the printers that are in our 3 offices are listed here on the printer selection. So, for example, if you happen to be looking at something, you had a question, you called me on the phone, we were talking about it, and you were in the return, you could choose to print to one of these printers, and I'd be able to walk over to the printer and pick it up. Now, your local printer, whatever you have connected to your computer, it's supposed to show up in this list, and they're always denoted by something that will say the word redirected. Okay, so like for example, I happen to know that this printer right here is a printer that's in our Belfast office, and I happen to be in the Rockland office right now. There's a printer here. Let's see if I can find it really quick. The Canon printer, and it's denoted Rockland. So you might accidentally click one of these and send the document, which is not a big deal, but something could print in our local offices, and we're looking at this going, what's this for? But when you want to print to something, to your local printer, you're going to be looking for the name of that printer, and it's going to have the words redirected next to it. Okay. So as you can see, they're redirected, and then that should print to your local printer. You can a lot of the forms are defaulted to print on are done by these things called print packets, and I'd ask that you don't change that. Don't do anything with that. If you're looking for one particular thing, like I will check them all on and then check them off. And if I was looking to print, let's say, 1040 and Schedule E, I might make those choices and just print that to save some paper and time, etc. But so please don't change these print packets. You can change print preferences because that's related to your logon, but I don't think that, truthfully, that you're going to need to do that. So aside from that, I think most of you, there's a few, I can see all of you out there now. I know most of you have had some exposure to ATX Wendy, I don't think you have used ATX, but Steve, I know you have, and Liana, I know you haven't. There's a few out there that I already know that you do. So, so this is all kind of old home week for you. And I think sometimes it's better to just jump in there and start using it, figuring out things as you go. There is a pretty good help, key in the program, where you can find answers to questions on their website, et cetera. But the short answer is, if you're spinning your wheels on something, please call the office. Please ask to talk to me. If I'm not available, then one of the other people on our staff will easily be able to answer your question, and I'd rather have you do that than just spinning your wheels and being frustrated. And if you haven't used ATX before, just like any other software program, you're going to feel a certain amount of stress because it's just not what you're accustomed to. And you always say, oh, well, TurboTax has it over here, or Lacert has it over here, or Lacert does this better. And all those things might be true, but this is the program that we're working with, and you'll get used to it like everything else. So having said that, I think that's all I'm going to cover on the tax program. If any of you have a question about anything connected to ATX, I'd love it if you type something into the chat box, and then I'll respond to it. And so far, I don't see anybody doing that. So I'll wait another couple of seconds here to see if anything comes up. And of course, I can always go back to this later on and cover anything that you want me to cover. All right, so I'm gonna. Here we go. What prepare info goes on the returns? Okay, thanks for that question, Steve. And everything should default basically to me. I'm the one who signs off on it. You'll see that if you look at, I'm going to take this down here. Just give me a second. You're going to see that it's it's my credentials. I'm the one who basically signs off and attests everything. If you're a return that's from a prior period, it's a returning client, so you're going to have that information defaulted. If you're doing a new return, really all you have to do is click the Prepare ERO button, and you can see that I'm in here, and you can change that, and you just click OK, and it will populate that field, in the return. So everything goes out using my credentials. All right. So any other questions? I'm looking for anybody else. So Steve is the only one that had a question about that. All right, so I'm going to move on, but I can always come back to this, and we're going to talk about our secure web portal. And I'll start this by saying that I really have to discourage you from trying to use Apple or Mac computers. Safari does not work well. In fact, it doesn't work at all with our secure web portal. And do not use Chrome either. We have a lot of problems with Chrome. I don't know why. The best browsers to use are either Internet Explorer, which is free with Microsoft, or Mozilla Firefox, which is also free. And the way that I get to my portal is I simply I bring up my browser. I happen to have my company website bookmarked, and you can see that here's the login, and I'm going to put in my my credentials and matching up the pictures, and then I'm putting in my password. You all have done this before, except that what you see is you're only seeing the cabinets or the accounts that you're authorized to see. So when you're when you've been assigned a project, we will add you to that customer's account, and you will see the here along in the section of the. Got to move this down a little bit. You're going to see in this section, you're going to see all of the cabinets that you're authorized to see. once the return has been accepted and proofed and everything's done, that's going to disappear from your screen, because we're going to take you off of that for security reasons. And if something has to change, or there has to be a revision after the fact, or maybe an amended return, then we're going to put you back on, and you'll be able to access that. But we're just shutting down possible avenues for hackers to get in case information falls into the wrong hands. So most of you are probably only going to see 3 or 4, maybe half a dozen of these these types of accounts in your screen at any one time. So you're probably not going to be like me, where you literally have thousands of these of these accounts in your web portal, where I might have to search for something. Now the lady that we were looking at before, by typing in her name, I've found her cabinet, and by clicking on the plus sign, I can see all the folders that are in this cabinet. Now this one hasn't been used in quite a while. This isn't part of our current setup, and you'll get a sense of this. For example, when we I'm going to open this one just so you can see it. And when we set up an account for a client, these are the typical folders that are going to be in there. And within a folder, just by clicking on, clicking on this plus sign, there's subfolders by year. All right, and so if you're looking, for something in 2016, there's where you're going to find it. And typically, the way that other I hate to be tripping over my own tongue, but we have a very specific naming convention in our company as how we name files. So they are specific to the year, the type of the return, and the name of the client. Okay, so typically, under like client tax documents, this is information that's coming from other people, and they just name stuff willy-nilly any way they want, and you can't always tell from looking at the name of the file, is this the right file? But if it's in that that year folder, then you can pretty much assume by opening that folder that you can see what's in it. And so I'm kind of looking. Let's see if there's something maybe in here that I could find that would give me something. Let's take a look at this one here to see supporting data. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just kind of guessing, looking for like somebody that was really really current. Anyway. Most of what you're going to find is going to be here under supporting data, and it's going to be in the right year. So you generally don't have to go hunting around looking. Did they maybe upload something in 2014 when they should have done it in 2016? A lot of times we already know. Like we get a heads up from the application that something has happened, and we go and look. And if something's in the wrong place, we'll move it to the right place. So, accessing this information, some of you, I know you've all kind of done this already, and I just wish I had something. Let me just try one here that I think would be easy, because this is a new client for us. Is I can go and I'm looking for, if I want to see the whole entire contents, then I'm just going to click here, and you're going to see that everything is going to change over on this side, and I'm going to be able to see the entire contents. And it just so happens that's a Word document. You can tell by here's some good information, right? So I'm going to click on that just to be able to access it. I'm going to click on the icon. I get this message. Yes, I want to open it, and you can see that Adobe Acrobat opens immediately on your computer, and this person happens to have scanned it, some things upside down. But you can see all of the information. You can change, of course, how big it appears. And this is kind of why I've stressed to many of you that I really feel strongly that you should aspire to having multiple screens. And the reason is you're going to be able to see more information. You're going to have to print less to be able to do some of this work. Getting out of any of these is just as easy as clicking the X to exit out of it. And of course you can download things, you can print things just in the same way I showed you before. I want to discourage you from downloading things. Number one is, you could have client-sensitive documents on your computer, and if your computer falls into the wrong hands, then we all have a problem. And I prefer not to use my insurance in this way, so please try to avoid downloading documents, and please do delete things after you don't need them. Even for the simple reason that you just don't want to choke up your own computer on with all these things that you've downloaded, and so that is kind of a self sort of preservation issue. If you have questions about anything that you see in here, it's easy to send me an email, and we'll be happy to respond to you quickly. We follow emails and other calls, etc., up till 6 p.m. Eastern time, or pardon me, 6 p.m. Pacific time. So, if you call the office, you leave a message, you're going to get a call back if it's before 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, except for weekends, and then then we're really kind of off duty after by 5 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. But you can, of course, you can send an email, of course, 24 hours a day. So you should probably never need to upload anything, but you might. Some of you have done that, and bear in mind whatever it is you upload, that anybody who is authorized to be into that cabinet can see whatever it is that you've uploaded. There's no protection from that. Of course, everybody within our organization is authorized to see these things, but sometimes you're working on a financial advisor client, and of course anybody in their office that is authorized to log in can log in and see that information. So, all right, I'm not going to spend too much more time on this. I do want to move along. I realize that it's now about 20 minutes of. Let's talk about getting paid. And the simple, the thing that seems to work best for all of our folks is to use Excel. And I just threw together here kind of a quick invoice, and I made up, you can tell, of course, that I'm a baseball fan, and I happen to follow the Red Sox, so I make up a lot of stuff related to the Red Sox. And you can see here, this invoice tells me, who the person that prepared it is. It tells me the name of the client. It tells me the type of return. And then it gives me the specific dates, and it gives me some details as to what type of work was performed, especially if there's something like requested missing information. And the more details that you can put into this, you're going to find that practically nothing you pick up is going to be clean. There's almost always going to be something missing, and it's always an excellent idea to document things in these entries. Form 1098, not included with the return, present in the prior year return, requested, main office to acquire this document or something like that. And you can see that I've written some of these things in here. So also you're going to tell me how many hours you worked on that project, and it's going to be intensive hours. So there is no such thing as 2.55 hours. There is 2.5 and 2.6. That's it. We only do it intensive hours. Whatever your rate, whatever we've agreed to, I want you to put it in the worksheet, and then you can use the program to calculate that amount. The reason that this is so handy is if you're using a newer version of Excel, that you can decide to share this. You can do it by email, and you send it as an attachment, for example, and bingo, it'll go right to where it needs to go. You could also choose to, which I happen to like as well, you could click on this and say I want to send it as a PDF. And if you're using Microsoft products, then it will come up that way, okay? I also like to, on the tab down here, I like to put the name of the client down here. So because you might use one file, you might create a new worksheet for every client that you're working on, or that you've done so far in that year, and that can serve as a good record for you as well. So now, when you do that, the way you get paid is we need you to send this information, preferably, let's say, as a PDF. That's kind of the easiest thing for us to deal with, and this is going to pop up here in a second. Now, you're going to want to write this down. This is easy to remember. You're sending this invoice to accounting@pthexandcompany.com. Okay, and it's a good idea to put, in the subject here, say shilling. Oops, I didn't spell that right. Boy, that's a sacrilege. Kurt Schilling could see me now, he would be very upset. You might put the type of the return in it. If there's something special that you want us to know, you could type a message in here, whatever it is, but that's the address that you're going to send it to. Now's a good time to tell you that some of you are operating as LLCs, some of you are operating as corporations, and I want to tell you that if you are going to be getting a check in the mail. And unfortunately, our electronic payment system is not going to allow us to electronically send you money if you are not an individual. And that comes through our payroll service, which is Paychecks, by the way. So only unincorporated entities can, we can do that with, because we have to supply a Social Security number in the software. So if you're doing that, I'm sorry. If you want to make a change and have it go, to under your personal Social Security number, and then you can make whatever changes you want on your tax return, but you're going to end up getting a 1099 at the end of the year, and it's going to have that total of those payments in it. So anyway, if you haven't already, in fact, I know for most of you I haven't asked for this yet, we need you to send us a voided check for which you would like, the account that you want your payments to go to. And payments always go out every other week, and they go out on the same in the same time that we do payroll. So they all get processed all at the same time. It's always on a Thursday. You will get a notification by email that the money's been deposited in your account the following day on Friday. Okay, so having that in mind, I know I'm watching the time here kind of carefully, and I'm going to, I think, this is all kind of pretty self-explanatory. If you have some other software, billing system, whatever it is, I'm okay with it as long as it gives me the date, the description of what you were doing, all these kind of details that we were just talking about, the number of hours, the rate, and the total, okay? All of those have to be there. Obviously, you're going to want to be able to reference the client and the type of work that you're doing. PDFs are best, but we work with other things, so if you want to send an Excel worksheet, I'm okay with that too. But PDF is kind of the best. It just makes it easy to store, and we can always go back to it and refer to it. So that is really kind of all. Oh, let me do one more quick thing. Is up here this is where our secure messaging is. Right? And you'll notice that you have an inbox, you have a sent box, drafts, trash, etc. And this looks kind of like a regular email. So if you were, you're going to find that I'm going to send you an email within the next day or two that's going to have all those credentials that I just talked about, and this is the way that I'm going to do it, is through this system here. And you will have to, it does not notify you outside of the portal, so you have to log into the portal to check your account. You're never going to get a notification anywhere else, any way else, other than by looking in, logging into the portal. You can use this, for example, if you want to send a message to me or somebody else in our company, and that's going to contain confidential information such as name, address, social security number, birth dates, all that kind of stuff that you already know is really super sensitive. Then you're not. You can use this as a way to send us that information. Okay, and this is actually pretty simple. If you want to compose a message, you simply check compose a message, and you're going to look for whoever. You can start typing in a name here, and you'll find that somewhere in here that happens to be my sister. You don't want to send her a message, but you might want to send me a message. And then you can tell me, what the topic is, and you can type your message. You can even attach things to it. And what's going to happen, of course, is when you click send, it's going to stay within the web portal, and when I log in, and not until I log in, am I going to see that message. So if you have something urgent and it is confidential, you might want to send it through this means, but you might also want to follow it up with a regular email that says, hey, Tom, I sent you a very urgent message through the portal. And then if I'm not logged in and I'm not already aware of it, then I will log in and I'll read the message and respond to you. And of course, the only way you're going to get a response is by logging into the portal. So, and it'll tell you, give you a little message over here. It'll say unread, and it'll give you a number. So, and other than that, I know I'm kind of over the time that I wanted to allot to this, but I'm now going to open everybody up, and if you have a question, something you want to see again, I'm more than happy to do that. Some of you, I can see you might have self-muted yourself, but let's see. So if you are there any questions out there? Anybody at all?
Could you send us a copy of that fake invoice Excel document? We can use it as a template.
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, not a problem at all. In fact, let's see, that was Wendy asking that question.
Yes.
So this is good. I'll show you. I'll send this as an attachment. Let's see if I still have WEN. There's Wendy. There you go, Wendy. Done.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else out there with any questions? Anything that you want to see again? Anything at all? Just speak right up, and I'd be happy to cover anything at all that you want to cover again. I'll go ahead and I'll wait. Steve, I can see you out there. Are you all set? You got any questions? Let's see, Steve's not responding. Liana, how about you? Anything? Okay, Alan, you got anything? All right, well, I'm not seeing anybody. Nobody's typing any messages. I guess I must do such a fantastic job doing this stuff that nobody really ever has any questions. Of course, remember that you're not out there operating alone in a vacuum. You can always call the office. You all have our telephone numbers. If you need to reach out to me even after hours, that's okay to do. I really don't like to take calls after 9 p.m. Eastern time. but you can call the office, our main number. You can dial extension 402, and that will forward the call to my mobile number. If I'm available to take the call, I'll answer. I understand that there's something about the software that handles that doesn't allow you to leave a message. So if you don't get me and you want to leave a voicemail message, then certainly call back. And on the second time, go to extension 301, and you'll hear my voicemail message, and it'll get recorded. And typically, that will reach my cell phone either by the voicemail system will call me and tell me I have a message, or it will turn your message into an audio file and clip it to an email, and then send it to me by email. So you can almost always raise somebody up until at least, that will answer the telephone for sure up until 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and or pardon me, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, because we will stay open until 6 p.m. Pacific to cover everybody on the West Coast. And if you don't get somebody right away, leave a message, because most of us all have have this wired to our cell phones, and we can respond to messages. So other than that, work is starting to flow in. We're going to start handing out jobs here pretty soon. So be watchful for your email, and do log into the portal. I will be sending your username and your password to you, and you'll get two versions of it. It'll be the one that gets you onto the web portal and one that gets you into the tax software. Okay, so and they kind of look similar, but you're going to have to pay attention, because at least on the tax software, the first letter of the password is always going to be capitalized, and that's going to be important. And this year they're requiring a minimum number of characters, one of which has to be capitalized. There has to be a special character in it, and you'll find that your password does have a special character in it. So that's you'll get used to it, of course, once you start putting things in. So all right, well, I've got 4 minutes left on this, and I'm guessing I don't see anybody sending messages. I'm not hearing anybody wanting to ask questions. So I guess we can kind of wrap this up, and you all feel free to send me emails. You already have my email address. You know how to reach me by telephone, and we'll be in touch. And I hope you have a great season. I'm looking forward to working with you. I can assure you that once you kind of get used to the routine, that most of this is all pretty easy. So, all right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this call. And by the way, I am recording this, so if any of you wanted to see this again for video playback, I would be more than happy to send you a link from our YouTube page. And there's a few people that didn't make this session that I'm going to send it to them as well. So you do have that option. All right, well, thanks for being with us. And again, feel free to reach out to me whenever you need something. I'd be happy to support you. Take care.